The great crystal towers of Harmony Prime flickered with dying light. Veltar pressed his 6 hands against the cold command console and watched another star system vanish from the galactic map. The Void Swarm had consumed the Kalani colonies. In less than 2 days, 3 billion souls gone. Just like that, High Council Leader whispered his aide Morven, her blue skin pale with fear. The Outer Rim defenses have fallen. Sector 7 is completely dark. Veltar's crystalline body hummed with despair. In his 800 years of life, he had never seen anything like the Void Swarm. They came from the empty space between galaxies, like a plague of living darkness. No weapons could stop them. No shields could hold them back. They consumed everything. Ships, planets, stars, even light itself seemed to die in their presence. The Coalition had tried everything. The mighty Thorian war fleets with their planet-cracking cannons, the genius Arcturian scientists with their reality-bending technology, the ancient Zephyrian mind warriors who could split atoms with pure thought. Nothing worked. The swarm adapted to every weapon, every strategy, every desperate plan. Sir Morven spoke again, her voice barely a whisper. Admiral Kexron reports total fleet destruction at the Omega Gate. He managed to escape in a single fighter. The swarm is heading for the core worlds. Veltar closed his main eyes and felt the weight of 47 civilizations pressing down on his shoulders. How do you tell trillions of beings that death is coming and there is no escape? How do you admit that all their technology, all their wisdom, all their careful evolution toward peace and logic had failed them? Activate the beacon protocol, he said finally. Morven's tentacles went rigid with shock. Sir, the beacon protocol has never been used. It reaches across the entire galaxy. The energy cost alone will drain half our remaining power reserves. The beacon protocol was ancient, older than the Coalition itself. It was a desperate measure created in the early days when civilization still believed in legends and heroes. The beacon would send out a psychic call across every star system, every planet, every space station. A prayer for help sent to anyone or anything that might answer. The massive transmitters deep within Harmony Prime began to glow. Energy coursed through crystalline conduits that had not been used in 1,000 years. The beacon's message was simple and desperate. We are dying. We need heroes. Please help us. The signal raced across space faster than light itself. It touched a proud Valerian empire and found only empty ships drifting in space. It reached the technological paradise of New Centauri and discovered nothing but ash. System after system showed the same result. The swarm had been there first. Days passed. The beacon continued its lonely call while the Coalition prepared for the end. Evacuation ships launched from doomed worlds. Ancient vaults were sealed to preserve what knowledge they could. Mothers held their children close and sang old songs about better times. Then, on the 7th day, something answered. The signal came from a small yellow star in the outer spiral arm, a backwater system that Coalition surveys had marked as hostile and avoided for centuries. The planet was classified as a death world. Too much gravity, poisonous atmosphere, extreme weather, violent wildlife. No intelligent life could possibly survive there, but the signal was clear, strong, and very much alive. Unknown vessel approaching Harmony Prime, the communications officer announced. They claimed to be from a planet called Earth. Veltar studied the crude metal ship on his display screens. It looked like someone had welded scrap metal together and strapped engines to it. No elegant curves, no crystalline beauty, just hard angles and weapon ports. Lots of weapon ports. They want to speak with whoever sent the distress call. The officer continued. They say they received our prayer for heroes. Veltar activated the main viewer. The alien face that appeared made his crystal structure vibrate with unease. 2 small eyes, strange hair covering its head, teeth that looked designed for tearing meat. When it spoke, its voice was rough and casual, like it was discussing the weather instead of the end of galactic civilization. This is Captain Deho Kim of the Earth Defense Corps, the creature said. We got your message about needing heroes. Sorry to disappoint you, but heroes are in short supply these days. However, if you need something killed, you called the right planet. Captain Deho Kim stepped off the transport shuttle and immediately broke 17 galactic safety laws. He removed his helmet in the docking bay without checking atmospheric readings. He lit a small fire stick and put it between his lips. Then he spat on the floor. Veltar watched in horror through the security monitors as station alarms began screaming. The human ignored them completely. Veltar to security. He spoke into his communicator. Quarantine Bay 7 immediately. The alien is contaminating our air supply. Sir, came the confused reply. Scanners show normal atmospheric readings. The human appears to be breathing our air just fine. This was impossible. Harmony Prime's atmosphere contained trace amounts of chlorine gas that would kill most species in minutes. The human was not only breathing it, but seemed to enjoy the experience. Dr. Hai-Jin Park emerged from the shuttle next. She carried a metal case that made Veltar-S detection equipment scream warnings about dangerous biological materials. When station security approached her, she smiled and opened the case. Inside were samples of what appeared to be liquid fire. "These are just some Earth bacteria," she explained to the terrified guards. "Very useful for breaking down organic waste. Would you like to see how they work?" "No," Veltar shouted through the intercom before anyone could answer. Earth bacteria could apparently dissolve metal. No wonder their planet was classified as a death world. Sergeant Wubin Lee rolled something round and metallic between his hands like a toy. Every scanner on the station identified it as a military-grade explosive device. When Veltar sent guards to confiscate it, Wubin laughed. "This little thing," he said, tossing the sphere into the air and catching it. "This is just a practice grenade. Barely has enough power to blow up a small building. You want to see a real bomb?" He reached for his equipment bag. 5 security guards fainted. Mi-young Choi ignored all attempts at communication protocol and immediately began connecting unknown devices to the station's computer network. Within minutes, she had accessed files that were supposed to be encrypted beyond any possibility of intrusion. "Your security system is interesting," she told the panicking IT staff. "It reminds me of the games my little brother plays on his learning." Computer Veltar finally met the humans in the main conference chamber. He had activated every defense system on the station and stationed armed guards at every entrance. The humans seemed amused by these precautions. "Nice place," Deho said, looking around at the crystal architecture. "Very shiny. Must be a pain to keep clean you are from Earth." Veltar began carefully. "Our records show your planet as uninhabitable. Uninhabitable," Hai-Jin repeated, looking confused. "Earth is perfectly fine. Sure, we have some weather issues. Hurricanes, tornadoes, earthquakes, volcanic eruptions, ice ages, solar radiation, toxic storms, predatory wildlife, poisonous plants, deadly diseases, and occasional asteroid impacts. But you learn to deal with it." Veltar-S crystalline structure nearly cracked. Each item she had listed casually would end civilization on most coalition worlds. "What is your gravity?" he asked weakly. "Standard Earth gravity is about 3 times what you have here," Deho replied. "Take some getting used to. My bones feel all floaty. 3 times galactic standard." These beings lived under crushing weight that would turn coalition citizens into paste. No wonder they moved with such confidence. Every step they took here was effortless compared to their home world. "Your atmospheric composition," Veltar continued. 21% oxygen, 78% nitrogen, trace gases," Mi-young recited. "Pretty basic stuff, basic stuff." Their air was so reactive, it would burn through most ships' hulls. Yet they breathed it like it was nothing. "And your wildlife," Veltar whispered. "Oh, we have some great animals," Wubin said with enthusiasm. "Tigers that can bite through steel, sharks with teeth like razors, bears that weigh half a ton, snakes with poison that stops your heart, spiders that jump at your face. My daughter has a pet snake. Cute little thing, only about 2 meters long. 2 meters of venomous death. As a pet for a child." Veltar realized with growing terror that these were not the heroes the Coalition had prayed for. These were apex predators from a planet that specialized in creating apex predators. They had accidentally called upon beings that evolution had spent millions of years designing to survive anything. "Tell us about this swarm," Deho said, leaning back in his chair. "What makes them so dangerous?" "They consume everything," Veltar explained. No weapon can stop them. They adapt to any strategy. They are death itself. The humans looked at each other and smiled. It was not a comforting expression. Sounds like Tuesday, Wubin said. Outside. Proximity alarms began screaming. The Void Swarm had found Harmony Prime. The Void Swarm hit Harmony Prime like a wave of living darkness. Veltar watched from the command center as thousands of black creatures poured from the empty space between stars. They moved without ships, without technology, without anything. The Coalition understood as civilization. They were hunger given form. All defense grids online. Admiral Kexron reported from the fleet command ship. Particle cannons charging energy shields at maximum power. The Coalition's response was textbook perfect. Ships formed defensive lines. Weapons fired in coordinated patterns. Shields overlapped to create impenetrable barriers. Everything the military academies taught for 1,000 years. The swarm ignored it all. They flowed around the energy beams like water. They passed through the shields like they were not there. When the particle cannons hit them, they simply absorbed the energy and grew larger. Shields failing, came the panicked reports. Breaches on decks 7 through 12. They are inside the ship. Captain Daeho Kim watched the battle from the observation deck and shook his head. This is all wrong, he said to Dr. Hyjin Park. Wrong how? She asked, studying the swarm through her scanner. Look at them. Move. Perfect formation. Coordinated attack patterns. Efficient resource distribution. They fight like a computer program. So, what do you suggest? Velta asked desperately. Another Coalition ship exploded in the distance. We fight like humans, Daeho replied. 10 minutes later, the human shuttle launched from Harmony Prime. It was not heading toward the fleet battle. Instead, it flew directly into the asteroid field, where the first swarm scouts had been spotted. This violated every military doctrine in the Coalition database. Where are they going? Admiral Kexron demanded. They are flying away from the battle. Maybe they are running, suggested Morven hopefully. Veltar did not think the humans were running. He had seen their eyes during the briefing. They were not afraid. They were excited. The shuttle disappeared behind a large asteroid for several minutes. Nothing happened. Then Sergeant Wubinli's voice came over the radio. Testing. Can everyone hear me? Good, Veltar. You might want to move your ships back a bit. Why? Veltar asked. Because we are about to make a very big boom. The asteroid field exploded. Not just one asteroid, all of them, in a chain reaction that lit up half the star system. The explosion was so massive it created its own gravity well. Hundreds of void creatures were caught in the blast and simply vanished. How did you do that? Admiral Kexron whispered. Wubin packed mining charges into the asteroid cores, Myung Choi explained over the radio. Then we used the gravitational stress fractures to create a cascading detonation sequence. She said this like she was explaining how to make breakfast. That is impossible, the Admiral replied. You would need to calculate 17 different orbital mechanics equations, account for mineral density variations, and time the detonations to the microsecond. Wubin is very good at math, Daeho said simply. The human shuttle reappeared, flying through the aftermath of the explosion like it was a pleasant afternoon cruise. Pieces of burning rock bounced off their hull without leaving scratches, but the Void Swarm was adapting. The remaining creatures spread out, abandoning their perfect formations. They began moving in random patterns, making calculations impossible. Now what? Veltar asked. Now we split up, Dr. Hyjin Park announced. This was the worst possible tactical decision. Every military academy in the galaxy taught the same basic rule. Never divide your forces when facing superior numbers. The humans ignored this rule completely. Daeho took the shuttle toward the swarm's main body. Hyjin disappeared into the space station's lower levels. Wubin headed for the maintenance tunnels. Myung vanished into the computer core. What are they doing? Veltar demanded. Playing to our strengths, came Daeho's voice as his shuttle dove straight into a cluster of void creatures. Hyjin, you ready with those party favors? Almost done, she replied from somewhere deep in the station. Just need to modify the atmospheric processes. Veltar pulled up her location on the station map. She was in the Waste Recycling Center, working with materials that would kill most coalition species just by exposure. Mi Young, how is our computer situation? Daeho asked. These void things have a basic neural network, she responded. Very simple, like an insect hive mind. I am uploading some improvements. What kind of improvements? Veltar asked nervously. Confusion protocols, logic loops, error cascades, and about 50,000 hours of Earth music. The effect was immediate. The void creatures stopped their coordinated attack and began flying in circles. Some of them started vibrating to what sounded like ancient Earth rock music. Wu Bin Yu in position, Daeho called. Ready when you are. Captain, these tunnels are perfect for shaped charges. What shaped charges? Admiral Kexron demanded. The ones I made from cleaning supplies, Wu Bin replied cheerfully. Amazing what you can do with basic chemistry. He had built military-grade explosives from janitor equipment. Velta began to understand why Earth was classified as a death world. Even their cleaning materials were weapons. The humans struck. Simultaneously, Daeho's shuttle released clouds of Earth bacteria that began eating through the void creatures' organic armor. Hygien's modified atmospheric processors pumped out chemical compounds that made the creatures sluggish and confused. Wubin's improvised explosives created controlled demolitions that collapsed sections of space around isolated swarm groups. But the most devastating attack came from Mi Young. Her computer virus did not just confuse the swarm, it made them afraid. For the first time in their existence, the void creatures experienced doubt, uncertainty, and panic. They began to retreat. Impossible. Admiral Kexron breathed. The swarm has never retreated. Never. That is because you have been fighting them like civilized beings, Daeho explained as his shuttle returned to the station. You use logic, coordination, and predictable tactics. The swarm adapts to logic. So how do you fight them? Veltar asked. Like humans, Hygiene said, emerging from the waste recycling center covered in substances that made the air filters scream warnings. Chaos, improvisation, and random violence. We do not think like a computer program. We think like crazy apes with too much creativity and not enough sense. Wubin climbed out of a maintenance hatch, grinning widely. Plus, we cheat whenever possible. The battle was over. The void swarm limped away into deep space, their perfect formation broken, their hive mind fractured by confusion and fear. For the first time in coalition history, they had been defeated. Veltar stared at the humans in amazement and terror. They had won by breaking every rule of civilized warfare. They had succeeded by being unpredictable, chaotic, and completely insane. This was just a scouting force, Daeho said casually. The real swarm will be here in a few days. Hope you have more cleaning supplies. 3 days after the first battle, the real void swarm arrived. It was not thousands of creatures this time. It was millions. They came in a dark cloud that blocked out stars and made the galaxy itself seem smaller. Veltar stood in the command center watching long-range scanners paint a picture of approaching doom. The swarm stretched across 3 star systems. No amount of conventional weapons could stop something that massive. Where are the humans? Admiral Kexron asked nervously. They said they were going shopping, Morven replied, checking her reports. Something about needing proper supplies. Before anyone could ask what that meant, new ships began arriving from Earth. These were not the crude metal vessels they had seen before. These were something much worse. They looked like they had been built from scrap metal, held together with wire, and painted with warnings in dozens of Earth languages. Incoming transmission, the communications officer announced. It is from someone called Teahine SC. The face that appeared on screen made Veltar's crystal structure vibrate with unease. This human had scars across his face and eyes that had seen too much violence. When he spoke, his voice was calm in a way that suggested he could sleep peacefully, while worlds burned around him. Harmony Prime Control. This is Deep Space Survival Team Alpha. We hear you have a pest problem. Deep Space Survival Team, Velta repeated. What does that mean? It means we specialize in living places where everything wants to kill us, Tehin replied. Perfect training for dealing with void creatures. Another transmission came through. This one from a woman with dirt under her fingernails and equipment that looked like it had been buried underground for years. This is Youngji Kim with the Underground Infiltration Unit. We have been studying the tunnel systems these creatures dig. Very interesting architecture. Completely wrong for Earth-style warfare, though. What do you mean wrong? Admiral Kex asked. They build their tunnels for efficiency and speed, Youngji explained. Perfect geometric patterns, no wasted space, no defensive positions. It is like they have never dealt with enemies who fight dirty. A third transmission interrupted. This human looked like he spent his time thinking about unpleasant things and enjoying it. His name was Changmin Park, and he commanded something called the Psychological Warfare Division. The void creatures have a hive mind, he said without introduction. Very efficient, very logical, also very predictable once you understand how they process information. We have been developing some interesting ways to give them new experiences. Veltar was beginning to understand that Earth had not sent just one team of warriors, they had sent specialists. Each group trained for different types of impossible warfare. How many human forces are coming? He asked Captain Deho. Just the ones we need, Deho replied. Teho implied in hard vacuum using nothing but emergency suits. Yunji's team can fight underground in zero-gravity tunnel systems. Changmin's group can break mines without firing a shot. And they all come from Earth, Veltar said weakly. Different parts of Earth, Dr. Hai-Jin Park corrected. Taehyun's people train in the deep ocean trenches where the pressure would crush your ships. Yunji's team practices in cave systems full of poisonous gas and unstable geology. Changmin's group studies in places where the local wildlife includes things that hunt by reading thoughts. Each specialty sounded more impossible than the last. These humans had not just survived on a death world, they had taken that death world and used it as a training ground to become even more dangerous. The void swarm reached the outer sensor perimeter. Immediately, it began behaving differently than before. Instead of massed attacks, the creatures spread out into hunting groups. They had learned from the first battle and adapted their tactics. They are avoiding large formations, Admiral Kexron observed. No more coordinated assaults. They are trying to prevent us from using area effect weapons. Smart Taehyun said, over the radio. Too bad it will not help them. His team launched from their ship in individual pods. No formation flying, no coordination. Each human went in a different direction like they were exploring a new neighborhood. Instead of flying into a battle zone, the void creatures tried to surround isolated pods. This was a mistake. Taehyun's people had trained for isolation. They were used to being alone in hostile environments with minimal supplies and no backup coming. Taehyun to Harmony Prime came the casual report. Void creature armor is weaker than expected. These things have never dealt with pressure changes. Watch this! His pod released a cloud of compressed gas that expanded rapidly in the vacuum of space. The sudden pressure wave made several void creatures simply explode like balloons. Interesting, Dr. Hai-Jin said. They are adapted for consistent environments. Pressure changes, temperature variations, chemical gradients, all the things that are normal in Earth's atmosphere are completely alien to them. Meanwhile, Youngji Kim's underground team had reached the asteroid where the swarm had established a forward base. Instead of attacking the main entrance, they disappeared into maintenance. Tunnels that no coalition engineer had even known existed. How did they find those passages? Veltar asked. We have been mapping your station for 3 days, Youngji replied over the radio. Amazing construction. Very logical. Very predictable. No redundant systems. No hidden passages. No emergency. Routes perfect for orderly civilization. Terrible for warfare. She was right. Coalition architecture was designed for beauty and efficiency. Human architecture was apparently designed for paranoia and survival. The underground team struck from inside the asteroid base. But they did not attack the void creatures directly. Instead, they sabotaged the environment. Gravity generators began fluctuating wildly. Atmospheric processors started producing random gas mixtures. Temperature controls began cycling between freezing and burning. The void creatures had never experienced environmental chaos. Their perfect adaptation to stable conditions became a weakness when the environment kept changing faster than they could adjust. Changmin Park's psychological warfare team never fired a single weapon. Instead, they broadcast signals that gave the swarm's hive mind something it had never experienced before. Individual thoughts, personal fears, the concept of being alone. What are you doing to them? Velta asked as he watched void creatures flying in random directions, apparently confused about their own purpose. Teaching them about human childhood, Changmin replied. Fear of the dark, separation anxiety, the feeling that something is watching you. Basic human emotions that their hive mind cannot process. The battle was not going according to any plan. Veltar understood. There was no grand strategy, no coordinated assault, just small groups of humans doing impossible things in ways that made no sense. But it was working. The massive void swarm was falling apart, not from superior firepower, but from simple confusion. They had never encountered enemies who fought without logic, who survived without coordination, who treated impossible odds as interesting challenges. This is just the beginning, Captain Deho said as he watched another group of void creatures retreat in panic. Wait until they meet the specialists we left back on Earth. The void swarm's main hive ship emerged from the dark space between galaxies like a mountain of living flesh. It was larger than most space stations, covered in eyes and mouths and appendages that defied description. This was the source, the mother creature that had spawned billions of smaller horrors across the galaxy. Veltar stared at the massive bioship and felt his crystal structure crack with despair. All their victories had been meaningless. The scouting forces, the forward bases, even the millions of creatures they had fought were nothing compared to this abomination. Energy readings are off the scale, Admiral Kexran reported. That thing has consumed 3 entire star systems. The mass readings suggest it has absorbed the actual stars themselves. All coalition fleets are to maintain maximum distance. Velta ordered, do not engage, do not approach. We need to evacuate the core worlds immediately. But Captain Deho Kim was studying the creature with the same expression he had worn when discussing lunch plans. Hygiene, what do you think? Nervous system or digestive tract? Dr. Hygiene Park was taking detailed scans of the bioship like it was an interesting science project. Definitely nervous system. Look at those neural pathway clusters along the outer shell. Very sophisticated, very centralized. Also very vulnerable if you know where to apply pressure. Vulnerable, Velta gasped. That creature is the size of a moon. It has armor plating thicker than our heaviest battle cruisers. Its weapons can crack planets. Size is not everything, said a new voice. This came from someone called Sangwook, who apparently specialized in engineering problems that other species would consider impossible. Every system has weak points, Sangwook continued. Redundancy failures, maintenance access ports, emergency overrides. This bioship is just a very large, very complicated machine. Machines can be fixed or broken, depending on what you need. What we need, Deho said calmly, is to capture it. The silence that followed this statement lasted for several minutes. Capture it, Veltar, finally whispered. You want to capture the thing that has destroyed half the galaxy? Why would we want to destroy it? Asked their Imhan, the human medical officer. Think of all the useful biological materials, the research possibilities, the medical applications. This creature has perfect regeneration, adaptive immune systems, and distributed consciousness. Very valuable. She was talking about the galaxy's greatest nightmare, like it was a prize laboratory specimen. Plus, added Wubin Li cheerfully, it would make an excellent weapon against any other void swarms that might show up later. Realized that the humans were not planning to kill the creature. They were planning to perform surgery on it while it was still alive and probably very angry. The plan is simple, Deho explained. Taehoyan's team creates a distraction on the outer hull. Yunja's people infiltrate through the digestive systems. Changmin's group handles neural disruption. Sangwook and I go for the main control center. What? Control center? Admiral Kexran asked. Every biological system needs a central processing unit, Dr. Higgins said. For something this size, it will be heavily protected but centrally located, probably near the gravitational center for stability. And how do you plan to reach this theoretical control center? Veltar demanded. Through the waste disposal system, Sang-wook replied like this was obvious. Most efficient route, least defended. Standard infiltration protocol. They were going to crawl through the digestive tract of a creature that ate stars. Veltar crystal structure was developing stress fractures. Just thinking about it, the attack began with Taehaen's deep space team doing something that violated every law of physics. Veltar understood. They somehow survived in hard vacuum while cutting through bioarmor that should have been impenetrable. Their tools were apparently designed for working in pressure environments that would crush normal matter. Hull breach successful, Take reported casually. This armor is interesting. Self-repairing but slow to adapt to rapid temperature changes. We are introducing some thermal variations to keep it confused. Yoonji Kim's underground team found entry points that the bioship did not even know it had. They moved through internal passages like they were exploring familiar cave systems instead of crawling through the digestive tract of a cosmic horror. Internal layout is very logical, Yoonji reported. Efficient nutrient distribution. Optimal waste processing. No redundant pathways. No security protocols. This creature has never dealt with internal parasites. Chongmin Park's psychological warfare team began broadcasting signals directly into the creature's neural network, but instead of confusion or fear, they transmitted something much more dangerous. They gave the hive mind individual identity. Fascinating. Response patterns Changmin observed. The distributed consciousness is trying to process personal pronouns. The concept of self versus other is causing cascading logic failures throughout the neural matrix. The bioship began to shudder and writhe as its perfect unity fractured into millions of individual thoughts. Parts of the creature started arguing with other parts. Some sections tried to go in different directions. Meanwhile, Daeho and Sang had reached what appeared to be the central nervous system. It was a vast chamber filled with pulsing neural tissue and electrical patterns that hurt to look at directly. Control center confirmed, Sang-wook announced. Very sophisticated setup. Biomechanical interfaces, quantum processing nodes, and what appears to be a manual override system. Manual override, Veltar asked. Emergency shutdown procedures, Sang-wook explained. Every complex system needs them, even biological ones. You just need to know where to look. And what happened? When you activate emergency shutdown on a creature this size, Admiral Kexron asked nervously. We find out, Daeho replied. Dr. Dharam Han was already preparing medical equipment. Do not worry. I have extensive experience with surgical procedures on non-human biology. This patient is just a bit larger than usual. She was planning to perform brain surgery on a creature the size of a moon, using tools designed for beings 1,000,000 times smaller. The shutdown sequence began with what Sang-wook called percussive maintenance. This involved hitting key neural clusters with carefully calibrated impacts until they stopped trying to resist the override commands. Neural pathway alpha is responding to treatment, Dharam reported. Patient is showing signs of sedation, reducing to minimum consciousness levels. The massive bioship slowly went limp as its primary nervous system shut down one by one. The creature that had destroyed civilizations was falling asleep like a patient under anesthesia. Capture successful, Daeho announced. One void hive. Ship lightly used, ready for new management. Veltar stared at the dormant bioship in amazement and terror. The humans had done the impossible. They had not destroyed the galaxy's greatest threat. They had domesticated it. What do we do now? He asked weakly. Now we give it a proper home, Dr. Hyjin said. Retrain its immune system. Reprogram its digestive processes. Teach it to eat space debris instead of inhabited planets. It will make an excellent cleanup crew for damaged star systems. 6 months later, Veltar watched the former Void Hive ship carefully collecting asteroid debris around a Coalition mining station. The creature that had once consumed worlds now worked as a garbage collector, happily munching on space junk and producing useful metals as waste products. The humans had turned the galaxy's greatest nightmare into a productive member of society. Any other problems we can help with? Captain Daeho asked during his final report. Veltar looked at his updated database. Earth's classification had been changed from Deathworld to something much more accurate. Do not provoke under any circumstances. Recommend immediate alliance. Possible gods of war. No thank you, Veltar replied quickly. We are fine. Everything is very peaceful now. The humans smiled and headed back to their impossible planet. The galaxy was safe, but Veltar suspected that was only because Earth had decided to let it stay that way.